Hello everyone, welcome to our channel, Rebecca, Stu, and the crew. I'm Rebecca, and today we have some craft ideas for fall to go over. Most of the items you see in the video can be found at your local Dollar Tree. For the supplies for our first DIY, very simple. We'll need some Mod Podge. We'll also need something to apply it with, like a paintbrush or a sponge brush. We're also going to need some scissors and some hot glue. And then we'll need some greenery of your choice or flowers, also some berries if you choose. I'm going to use some napkins with fall floral on it and some foam pumpkins. We're also going to use some ribbon and some of the Crafter Square foil flakes. So let's get crafty. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the stem from our pumpkin, but hold on to it because we'll put that back on later. Then take your napkin. I picked these up at Hobby Lobby for 50% off. We're going to peel them apart so that we only have one layer. Then we're going to cut our napkin in half up the center, and then we'll layer it and cut it one more time in the center to make strips, which will make it easier to get the pieces on and between the grooves of the pumpkin. And we'll cut a few of them so we have enough to wrap our whole entire pumpkin before we get started. Then we'll start wrapping or adding the Mod Podge to sections of our foam pumpkin. You don't want to go too crazy and cover the whole thing. It might dry by the time you get to the other side, but definitely add hot glue to a section wide enough for each piece of the napkin. Then you'll take your paintbrush or sponge brush and you'll dab down into the creases of the pumpkin so you don't lose its shape, and make sure that you have those edges glued down really well. So we'll just keep doing that until it's nice and smooth, and then we'll start adding more of the napkins. Now I noticed that this bottom piece was a little bit longer than I liked, so I went ahead and trimmed that down a little bit and added a little bit more of the Mod Podge to the end to make sure it wouldn't lift up over time. Just keep repeating that process, layering the napkin until you have your pumpkin completely covered. While the napkin dries a little bit on our pumpkin, we're going to take our stem, add some Mod Podge, and start putting on the foil flakes. We're going to use a dry paintbrush to dab on the foil flakes so it doesn't stick to it. And we'll set that aside to dry and start adding your ribbon. I'm using some coordinating ribbon Dollar Tree sells. I thought the green looked really pretty with this floral pattern napkin. I cut the pieces long enough so I can go all the way around the pumpkin. So I just add a little dot of hot glue at the top, a tiny bit right in the middle at the bottom, and one more dot of hot glue at the top. I create an X pattern and then keep following those grooves in the pumpkin because you don't want this to end up looking like a big foam ball. You still want it to look like a pumpkin when it's finished, so you really want to make sure you're following those indentions in the pumpkin so you're keeping that shape. Now once you get this filled in pretty far, there'll be a few pieces where you don't want to wrap the ribbon all the way around. It just starts to get too full and a little bit too bulky, so you'll need to cut the ribbon down just like I did here, and just use some hot glue at the top and the bottom. But just fill in the rest of your ribbon. Make sure it's all nice and tight. Once it is, we can start to decorate the pumpkin itself. So what we're going to do is just take some greenery or some fall leaves or flowers of your choice, and we'll start adding those to the top of our pumpkin. I'm going to use these little green leaves here. I just fold the stems in half and then pop it right through the styrofoam. You can add some hot glue there as well to make sure those pieces don't come out over time. I'm going to replace my stem at this time, and then we'll finish decorating the top of the pumpkin using some of these pip berries from Dollar Tree. I just curl them around my finger to create this curlicue vine kind of look to it. And again, I just pop those right into the top of the pumpkin. I'm not really adding a whole lot of hot glue. A few of them I will add hot glue if there's not a long piece that I can pop through the top of the pumpkin. But for the most part, I just popped them through the top and it held just fine. This is what the pumpkin looks like all finished. Nice and green, so pretty. Looks good with the gold. Now for DIY number 2, we'll go over the supplies. Not all of the items in this one came from Dollar Tree, like the spray paint. I got that at Walmart. I'm going to use this metal ribbon. I did pick this up at the Dollar Tree, and the floral wire is from the Dollar Tree. We'll use these LED mini votive candles. This moss is from Hobby Lobby. the stocking from the Dollar Tree and the ink pad from Dollar Tree. The stampers, I picked these up at Michael's craft store for about 50% off, and then we'll use some of this Fix-All adhesive also from the Dollar Tree, the pliers, and some hot glue. And last but not least, we'll need a candlestick. So let's get crafty. So first thing we're going to do is cut some strips of the wire or the metal ribbon, and this is going to be to create our pumpkin. I didn't have enough of one roll of ribbon to make one pumpkin all with the same ribbon, so I just kind of mixed and matched and created a pattern as I went along. So all I'm doing is taking the wire and creating circles and just tying them together at the top with the wire. I create an X pattern, and then I go through the center going the opposite direction and create another X pattern until I have my pumpkin shape. Then I take some pliers and a small piece of the metal that's left over, and I'm just going to curl this around and keep making like a curly pattern until we have what looks like a stem. And once I make sure the size looks okay, I'm just going to add that floral wire to both sides of the stem, and then I'll use those pieces to tie the stem to the top of the pumpkin that we just made. Hot glue is not going to work here. You'd have to somehow clamp it together and hold it until the glue would set up, and it would just be a little bit too time consuming. So attaching it with the wire really became a good choice and a better option. So we just pop the wire down through the top of the pumpkin, and then we'll grab those two pieces of wire, and now we'll use those long pliers to twist the wire together to help hold it on nice and tight. I'm spraying mine with the spray paint. I'm just going to make it black. And while that's drying, I'm going to take this stocking and cut it apart because I want to use the material. I like the look of it. It looks very vintage, and I thought it would help with this craft project. So I'm just going to cut right along the strips here to make strips of fabric with my pinking shears, and then make just a nice long rectangle piece. I cut a couple of these. I wasn't sure how much I was going to need. And I also saved the top portion of the stocking that was all tan. We'll hold on to that for just a minute. We're going to take some of this moss and just kind of roll it up into a ball. And then we will glue that into the bottom of our pumpkin now that it's dry. So once we have the moss in the bottom, then what we're going to do is take that ribbon that we cut from the stocking, and we're going to tie that to the top stem. We're just making a very basic knot, just tying it and adjusting the pieces. Next, I thought I would use some of that Fix-All adhesive to attach this to the candle stand that I have from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to put some hot glue around the outside edge, and this is going to give a quick fix for now to hold it in place while the other glue is drying. Taking some twine, we're just going to cut a long piece and kind of double it up. This is just an added accent to the top. Kind of helps tie into that more natural look with the moss that we put inside of the pumpkin. So I just layered this up like a double layer, and since it already kind of has a curl to it, I just left it as is and pulled that into a knot around the stem. Let those pieces hang down. Then we'll take another piece from the stocking, and we're making a very small bow, and that's going to be glued to the top right in front of the ribbon that we already have on there. Where the knot's at, we're going to actually glue it right there in the front. And just hold it in place while it dries. Make sure it sits where you want it to be. Make sure you pull your pieces down so they don't get glued up high behind the bow. And then we're almost done. It's really easy. We just made some loops to create the pumpkin and then spray painted it, added a little bit of moss and a ribbon. We glued that to the candle stand, and now we'll just make a very simple tag. This is just to add sort of like a vintage look to the pumpkin and really help tie it all together. So we're going to fray the edges of the material by pulling a few strands out all the way around, and this material is the top of that stocking that we cut down. Now I'll take those stampers I got from Michael's craft store for about $4. Maybe they were on sale, so I got them pretty cheap. We're just going to stamp out the word pumpkin, and the ink pad comes from the Dollar Tree. And then we'll take some twine and a few of the natural looking beads and create a tag with the word pumpkin. And then we'll attach this to the stem of our pumpkin that we just made. And of course, you'll want to put your little LED candle in the middle, but you don't want to glue that down. That way you're able to turn it off and on. And that really helped make this look a little bit more vintage. And I love that accent. Just kind of finished the whole piece. And here's what it looks like. It was actually really easy to put together. Didn't take much time at all. Most time consuming part was waiting for the paint to dry. So now for our third DIY, again, we're going to be using some paint and some birch ribbon from Dollar Tree. We're also going to need a small piece of a pool noodle and that floral wire we used earlier. I'm also going to use 2 of these baskets. If you can find them in black, that will work. You won't need the paint. We're going to need some fall leaves and some fall floral. Also, we need some ribbon. I chose this orange ribbon from the Dollar Tree and some random ribbon of your choice. We're also going to use one of these tags. I'm not sure which one quite yet. And also we'll need some hot glue and some scissors. So let's get crafty making our third project today. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put these 2 baskets together. So I had some in gold, which is why I'm going to paint mine. If I would have went to the store and had to buy some, I would have just already purchased them in black and I wouldn't need to spray paint them at all. And of course you can leave them gold if that's what you have and you like that color. For what we're making here, that's really up to you. But we're just going to wire these together with that floral wire. Those clamps helped hold it in place while I tied those together. And then I'm going to use that spray paint to paint these black. Well, once that's dry, we're going to take that orange burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree and we're going to cut it long enough so it wraps all the way around both baskets. And we'll start weaving that in and out of the basket until we get to the top. Now, it does twist up because the pieces are a little bit more narrow than the wire is itself. So each time you go through, you're going to have to adjust the wire ribbon on the sides. Once you get it adjusted, then go ahead at the top and just pull it nice and tight and do a very simple knot. That's our first piece. We're going to do the second one. As you can see how it kind of bunches up as you go through. So as you pull it through, you just need to keep adjusting that ribbon so you go over the sides a little bit and keep it nice and open and fills in the spaces. And then we'll just tie this one in a very simple knot as well, just right on top of the one that's already there. And that's making like a bow at the top. You can see I need to pull the wire in the ribbon. I just kind of like pull the ribbon so it's over those top portions of the wire so it helps hold it in place. So I'm not adding any hot glue to the ribbon. So once we have those 2 pieces on, we'll take that pool noodle and wrap it in this birch ribbon from Dollar Tree. I'm just using hot glue to attach it. You notice I cut it a little bit longer than it needed to be. That's because I'm going to tuck these pieces down into the middle of the pool noodle so it wraps all the way around the noodle and you won't see any of the color. And take a bunch of your flowers that you chose and push those down into the middle of the pool noodle and add some hot glue to help hold those in place. And you can cut the stems down so they're nice and flat at the bottom. And then what we're going to do is push this through our basket. Kind of wish I would have done this first before I wired it together, but I wasn't quite sure how that was going to happen. So the pool noodle, it's nice that it's squishy because you're able to force it through those pieces. And then we just glue that to the middle. I just added some hot glue from the bottom. And then push down so it stays in place. Next, we'll take one of the tags from the Dollar Tree. I ended up deciding to use this one for my daughter. And then I added a few more pieces of some decorative ribbon. I just looped it through the top and cut it small. If it was a little bit too long, I just kind of trimmed it down a little bit because I just wanted a little bit of an accent at the top. I didn't want to overdo it. So I added a few pieces of that, and then we'll take a small stem of your choice, and this is optional. You don't have to add this piece, but I just had this piece left over from Dollar Tree. I glued that to the top to create a stem, and it created this kind of vintage farmhouse looking wired pumpkin. So very simple. It's easy to put together. And I wish you guys could see it in person. It looks so much better than the picture. Sometimes the pictures don't do them justice, but I do like the way it turned out. So now for DIY number 4, the supplies we're going to need today. It's very simple. We're going to use some Dollar Tree iron-on vinyl, we'll need some Dollar Tree placemats. There's a couple different styles you can choose. There's the tapestry style, and then there's also the double-sided. We have these iron-on gemstones from Dollar Tree. These are used for like t-shirts and things. We'll also need some scissors and, of course, an iron and either some parchment paper or um, like a light towel. So all we're going to do is take those gemstones and you peel the backing off, and then you place it on top of your tapestry style placemat, and we're going to push down with an iron and hold it in place until the glue starts to stick. And you'll know there's a time on the back, it actually has directions. So you just want to hold it in place until you know that they're down there, and then you just pull that top piece off and you've got your gemstones left behind. And again, the pictures really don't do it justice. These are so pretty in person, especially the gold one. It's kind of hard to see on the camera. It just wasn't picking it up like it should, but in person, these are so pretty. Very simple way to decorate those a little bit. And then I've got that iron on vinyl, and we're going to put that upside down. So we're going to put this in the Cricut to cut it out. And then once we have our design cut out, we just have to remove the outside border. And then we will stick this down to the front of our placemat. And we'll iron it down, and then you just remove that plastic piece. And you've decorated your last placemat here. Of course, the cat always has to help. And this one says thankful, grateful, blessed. I wish I would have used a different color vinyl for the last one. It would have shown up a little bit better. It was a little bit hard to see with the pumpkin background. But just some ideas of how you can decorate the Dollar Tree placemats to kind of make them your own and dress them up a little bit. But that's all of our projects today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we upload a new video. And here are some other videos from our channel you might also enjoy. I hope you all have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.